And what does this race in the South tell us about how the midterms could shape up this November? Joining us now, Dr. Lauren Wright, a Princeton University political scientist and NewsNation political contributor, and former Democratic advisor Dan Turrentine. Great to have you both here. Lauren, let's start with the Republicans. This was the most expensive Senate race in history, and we're just talking the primary.
Yep.
And now we have to have a runoff because Trump wouldn't endorse before the primary, and now he's going to endorse, and he's asking whoever he doesn't endorse to drop out. What's he going to do?
I do not think I don't think either one would drop out. It was so close,
Even
Elizabeth. I was surprised.
But if he endorses John Cornyn, the incumbent senator, you don't think Ken Paxton will drop out?
I don't, because when the numbers are that close and you're ambitious and you have a chance and you have that huge swell of support, yes, your career ambitions do take over your interest in being friends with the president at that point. I would be surprised.
We should point out both these candidates, John Cornyn, the longtime incumbent senator, Ken Paxton, the longtime embattled, scandal-laden Texas attorney general, they were within 2 percentage points of each other. There was a third candidate in the race, a congressman. Will his votes be split? Will they go to either candidate? What do you think?
That's a great question. Usually what happens with a third candidate like that is the votes get relatively evenly distributed. It's really hard to predict. Now, John Cornyn, I would just say, don't underestimate these incumbents with resources and name recognition. I know it's an anti-incumbent political season. I want to hear what Dan thinks about that.
He's up next.
People know him, and they like him for the most part, and he's very conservative. It's not as if he's a tried-and-true moderate here.
Dan, one of the reasons people speculate that President Trump didn't endorse incumbent senator, longtime Senator John Cornyn, is because John Cornyn did not support President Trump when he tried to run a second time. John Cornyn was very much against President Trump after January 6th.
Yeah, there was no love lost, and I think John Cornyn's been the beggar now for the last 2 years. And on the flip side, Ken Paxton's been a huge supporter of Donald Trump. I mean, he led the J6 kind of lawsuits. He was very active during COVID against the government, and so you really have kind of the tale of two sides. And of course, John Thune has been begging for him to stay in. I think what's interesting is, to Lauren's point, is I think some of that, third-party vote may actually go to Paxton. And so I do agree that it's hard to go against Trump in a primary. And of course, the other thing is there's a race across the aisle to define James Tallarico. Can Republicans do it, or can Tallarico walk around the state introducing himself to voters while Republicans, are pounding each other?
Right, exactly. They're engaged in their own fight. Okay, let's talk about the Democratic primary, because last night, State Representative James Tallarico, who's been on this show a few times, beat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. For a time there, she was far and away the leader in this race, and in the last few weeks, he really caught up. He beat her handily.
He did, and I think there were two big things that people were really watching. One was Latinos. Where would they go? There's a history with Latinos and Black candidates, and obviously the Democratic Party's been struggling with them recently. He won them 2-1, and I think that's very exciting both for James Tallarico and for the party, because there's a lot of House races down there after redistricting in southern Texas that Republicans thought they were going to run the score up, now aren't as sure. And so I think, James Tallarico did very well. The issue here now is it's one thing to be a moderate in a Democratic primary. There's a different definition of that in a general election. And as I said, Republicans, if you went on social media today, are unloading on Tallarico with all these statements about trans and open borders. And he's going to have to try to fix up some of this stuff soon.
Yeah, Lauren, Dan raises a great point. It's one thing to be a state representative. And to be fair, James Tallarico was on Joe Rogan, wowed Joe Rogan, who said you should run for president. He got a great big boost by being canceled from Colbert, who promptly put it on YouTube, and he raised a ton of money. He has been sort of a media darling in many ways because of his willingness to go on any show and talk in a really sort of moderate, reasonable way. It's a whole nother thing to be in a very bruising election in Texas.
Yes. And keep in mind, you know, the new base of Texas voters that California is hemorrhaging, for example, to the tune of about 100,000 people a year, are not necessarily just going to turn into conservatives naturally when they get to Texas. So it's a mixed base, and there are moderates there who maybe are more moderate on social stuff, but like the economics and the taxes in Texas. So this is a constantly evolving state year by year. The Latino vote is also a tremendous consideration. But yes, I mean, Tallarico, now we will see if he has the chops for a statewide race. It's more than just ideologically where you stand. He also has a master's in divinity, which is very interesting. He has that religious aspect.
He talks very openly and often about faith.
Yes, I think that's probably very popular there. But there's some tough, really divisive issues in all of these statewide races that he's going to have to answer to.
Dan, Republicans really wanted to run against Jasmine Crockett. The RNC was the first organization to poll Jasmine Crockett's chances of winning. They were in their pot stirring, encouraging her to run because they thought they could beat her.
Oh, absolutely. But look, I actually think it's great Jasmine Crockett ran, because all these candidates have been told, like, wait your turn. You can't appeal statewide. I tended to think that was the case, but like, go out there and prove it. She ultimately didn't hire a campaign manager. She didn't really leave her district very much. She didn't run a very good campaign. And so this is why we have races. Tallarico ran a fantastic race. But look, Jasmine Crockett, I give her credit. She endorsed Tallarico today. It was the right thing to do. We're going to need every Democrat there is if we're going to have a chance in Texas. And so, you know, she was not probably the best candidate in Texas.
Well, we'll see if history might be made and Texas can flip a seat from red to blue. My gosh, first time since 1961 if that happens. All right, Lauren, Wright, Dan Turrentine, thank you so much. We'll be talking about this race for months to come.